Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we are going to recap the first ADCC Brazilian Trials for ADCC 2022. We're going to talk about Fight to Win 193, featuring Victor Hugo and Igor Schneider. We're going to talk a little bit about Toro Cup 19, which had some great matches on it as well, and preview some upcoming events as well. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine. I'm the co-host.
Rob Sullivan.
How you doing, Rob?
Good.
You always give the official name like Rob Sullivan.
Rob Sullivan. Yeah.
So everyone else just goes like, this guy, it's here. So we were talking about on the pre-show, there's not a whole lot of news this week. We have a bunch of matches to cover for trials. We're going to run through all of the finals matches for Brazilian trials. This one only has one women's finals match. The women's qualifier is this next weekend for ADCC trials, because Brazilian trials is running essentially back-to-back weekends. So they'll run the first trials and the second trials runs this following weekend. So we will cover the next trials this next weekend, but we're only going to run through the finals matches. I haven't got a chance to watch through all of the divisions yet.
No, I watched highlights and then just just ran down the finals when I could. Yeah, I watched a little bit throughout the weekend,
So did I.
Driving places, but I didn't catch anything until the finals.
Yeah, I caught a bunch of Michael Galvao finishes, but Majid had a huge run. Some other guys had great matches.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Gorilla Hands because I just like that dude.
Yeah,
it's funny. And our friends have comments they like to make about him.
Yeah. So we're going to go through the finals for that. We're going to run through, I think, 4 or 5 matches for Fight to Win and then some Toro Cup stuff. But not a lot of news this week. So we have trials upcoming. We have Euros, I think, in 2 weeks for IBJJF. So we're going to cover the European Championships. Again, I'm not really certain how that's going to look with coronavirus and restrictions. Again, I do not know what's happening over in Europe.
What country is that in?
What?
What country is that in?
I have no idea. Rob, that is a next week preview problem.
The UK dropped everything.
Okay.
They are officially the good life, I guess. No mask, no nothing.
Jesus. So, I don't know what the Euros are going to look like, but we're going to preview the Euros this coming week. It is in 2 weeks. It is the first time we've had Euros in a year, 2 years. So, it will be interesting. Other than that, we got trials next week, but there is functionally not a whole lot of news. I messed up the date on BOA Super 8. That is happening this weekend. There's some more live stream details coming out. Follow BOA Super 8 if you want to find that. We talked about it a bit last week, but I got the dates wrong, so it's happening this weekend. It looks like a fun event. Again, features some Australian talent, so go listen to what we talked about last week for that, because it is coming up this following week. Let's get into it, Rob. So let's do a preview. Let's do a recap of the ADCC South American Trials, what everyone calls the Brazilian Trials, because it's typically won by Brazilian dudes.
Yeah.
Although, again, some other folks from other countries, did make entrances into it. I think all the finalists and all the winners were Brazilian.
Yeah, was anyone not?
I don't think so. Every name I wrote down for a winner, Rob, and everything I looked at was like that.
I can't
think they're all Brazilian.
Most of their damn names.
It'll come with time, Rob.
It also doesn't help that when the announcers say their names, they only say one word of their name. And then for me, I'm like, I know that guy is, but that's his name. I get so caught off guard by that.
If you're not familiar with what Rob's talking about, all Brazilians, or not all Brazilians, a lot of Brazilian guys have 4 or 5 different names, and they are selective which name they choose to use.
And it won't be the one written. It won't be the one on the screen. So I'm like, wait a minute, I know that guy, but I don't know who the fuck that guy is.
Yeah.
And then, so if it's like a not no name, but he's
a guy we don't cover as much on the show.
Yeah, he's not.
We're gonna butcher the names.
Like,
welcome to Brazilian Trials for the Grappling Rewind every time. So under 66 kilogram finals for ADCC Trials. If you do not know what ADCC Trials is, it's a big fucking deal. It is how you earn a slot into the biggest no-gi grappling event, and the biggest grappling event that takes place in the world. Historically has the biggest cash prizes. You can make a career off of a win at ADCC Trials.
Yeah,
it features the toughest and best grapplers in the sport that come together to compete for one of 8 trial spots for regions of the world. Each region has 2 trials. There's 2 North American trials, 2 South American trials, 2 Oceanic and Asian trials. There's 2 European and African trials. This is the first Brazilian trials, notoriously one of the more difficult trials in the world to win. We now have, 4 different people that now have earned a slot into ADCC 22. Trials is a big deal, and it's a lot of fun. The first trials for under 66 kilograms is Diego Pato Olivera versus Diego Reis. I wrote him as Diego Pinheiro for a bunch of it, but Diego Reis is his actual name. Both shirtless. The first note I have. ADCC lets you compete shirtless. It does actually kind of change up the grappling a lot, especially towards the later end of the matches.
Wrestling.
Yeah,
wrestling changes. I would say passing does too, but the wrestling, and you saw it. You saw it in all these matches. Late in the day, you're talking. The announcers mentioned it. I don't remember what it was, but the humidity is insane.
Oh yeah.
So you're sweating your ass off trying to hold on to somebody, and you could see it in this match especially. It's
actually a note for once that makes sense as the top note. Like both shirtless, it plays a factor, especially because
it plays a huge factor.
This match went into overtime. This match goes length,
and they looked
sweaty and wet throughout the match.
The chill level of the crowd, and I don't mean by they weren't excited. They were plenty excited. They were Brazilian and watching jiu-jitsu. I just feel that they're excited for that. It's like maybe soccer, football. They like more, but. The sideline people watching look like a scene out of fucking Street Fighter, whereas like people like watching and there's every type of character hanging out shirtless, some like fucking bikinis. Like people were chilling. I was like, this is exactly what I expected this to look like.
Footage out of Brazilian Trials is always awesome. So in this match, where do you want to start with this match? You want to talk about the wrestling exchanges, the beginning of the match. This match goes to overtime, and kind of not the majority of the match, but Pato looked in control, especially at the beginning of the match. He opens up the match.
Okay, let's talk about how he opened that match. We can talk if you want to talk about how he opened the match. There's some little bit of hand fighting. Yeah, and they break away and.
Hage turns a little bit too far to the away from him,
Hage
like they're going to reset.
Stands up straight is what Hage does. He stands up straight with about a 6 foot difference in between of them, and Pato spears him in half like he's fucking Bill Goldberg. I mean, he hits him so hard and drives him, and if we wasn't the standard. Don't stop until the ref stops you. They made it clean to almost the other side of the other mat. Yeah,
they stopped it. They took him. Pato took down Hage in the middle of the other mat. ADCC, if you don't know, again, because ADCC is a very unique event, it does not stop until the referee stops you. Yeah. It doesn't matter if there's mat there or not.
Chairs there.
Yeah, they'll move chairs. If you roll into the chairs, ADCC doesn't stop until the ref says you stop. So that other mat space, it is expected that mat space will be used because it is matted area, and so the ref goes, there's no incentive.
The more we talk about this tonight, the more that comes into play in a few matches where there's people getting taken out. That need to be. Just get up.
Well, we saw it a ton at East Coast trials too. Yeah.
East Coast was worse because they're metal chairs. At least at this, they were like plastic lawn chairs.
We're
in a fucking hotel at the East Coast, and it's like they're running into metal. Fucking designer chairs you have in a hotel.
So he spears him immediately, and that kind of sets the pace for the match. Pato's on top, Pato's passing, and Diego Reis has a really, really good reverse de la Riva, reinforced reverse de la Riva on the same side, and Pato's really digging through that knee cut for a good section of the beginning of the match, definitely in control with the passing. At one point he goes body lock, and he jumps over and almost passes with the body lock. Diego Reis, they're both named Diego, Rob.
Yep.
God, that was confusing in my notes.
Because they especially, even the announcers kept doing that.
Also in my notes, it goes Diego. And I've realized this just now that all of my notes say Diego for everything instead of the last name. It's all over my notes.
One of the notes I had was that I thought was, which one did it? Yeah, it was
Diego.
Yeah, Diego. It was. Sorry, I had a burp there. Hage did this. So at some point, Pato was actually pretty close to getting his back.
Yeah.
And Hage locked under his own leg, keeping him from getting that second hook out just so he couldn't score.
Yeah.
And it
super deep hook, almost like he was going for a knee bar, but at the high chest without the leg control. Obviously looking to just stop the back.
It was only to stop.
And not looking to progress.
And I thought that was I wrote that down. I wrote interesting next to that, because I thought that was like, oh, that is game. That's gaming the system. That's a really good way.
Yeah.
You know the clock's running out. You know this is probably going to be a 0-0 situation, and you're like, ain't letting you score. Yeah, you can get that hook in. I'm not going to let the other one go.
That's one of the reasons I really enjoy these like high-level competitions for like ADCC, because it's got a very unique rule set, and you see it gamed in really unique and interesting ways, where it's like an ADCC plays like kind
of
of
way
fast
his arm
and
was,
loose with
it
how they
pretty
do
much
it.
killed. He already had his other hand trapped. It was like it didn't. There was no. He wasn't worried about getting choked. He wasn't worried about getting put into a worse position. It was just like, I'll just stay here with my own leg, and you will eventually just give up this position and go to something
you
else.
have to go to something else.
And that's what
here.
he had to do. So, yeah, I thought that was a really interesting tactic to make sure he didn't get that second hook in.
Yeah, there's an interesting fireman counter, and as we get later in the match, there's two things that really, really were interesting. So in the overtime, no points, they stand them back up, they start in the middle, they give them 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I think.
4, I think.
4 minutes in the overtime. So you have a 8-minute match. 8-minute match in the finals, and then if there is no score or no negatives or anything, they put them back in the center, and they give them 4 minutes from the standing to begin working again.
Yeah.
And Hage, 2 different times, gets like in on a shot, gets a body lock of some sort on Pato's back, and then either Pato goes to turtle. Actually, Pato goes to turtle.
So the first time was the weirder one. The first time, I think he went single. I'm almost positive, and someone listening to this will be like, that's bullshit, whatever. But he got in on his legs, took the corner, got his back, locked around the waist, and then...
So this is the one actually that made sense to me.
Hage, like, bent down as if he was going to look to go to his legs or something, and he cut and pushed away. That was the first one.
Well, no, so Pato did that.
Yeah, Pato did that. Pato
Yeah,
did
so
it.
Diego Reis is behind Pato in a body lock, and you look at like, and Pato doesn't he doesn't start sprawling and pushing the hands out. You see he's immediately going to roll through for a knee bar or for like the saddle.
So that one made
something.
sense. So it made sense.
The commentary didn't see that. And the commentary was kind of very confused as to why he did it.
But it was quicker, and it was like, all right, I'll see something. But when you do something, 3 times?
2 or 3 times. There was 2 times that he went to the turtle. When Pato goes to the turtle.
The third time is the only time he held on. So he ends up in the same position 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, it's turtle, and he disconnects, pushes away. And that one was where I was like,
stands
okay, up. And you're not going to fight from that position? So, I mean, he must have been worried about something. There's some part of his game he felt this could be bad for me if I stay here. I didn't see anything that made me
And that
think,
was what I was curious about too, is I didn't see anything either of like, and again, it was a strange situation where Pato was turtled, and then Diego Reis goes to is gonna attack the turtle, and then just pushes off the turtle and stands back up and forces Pato to stand back up.
My only issue with this, and the announcers were making a big point about this, is you're judged on your entire match.
Yeah.
If you're judged on your entire match, that's where I struggle with. I love ADCC rule set, but I do struggle with that point, because then you do have to look at the entire match. And if you're looking at the entire match, well, 8 minutes of dominance is a lot better than that 4-minute round.
Right.
That is like not exactly dominance. Now it's weird. It's controlling position.
Yeah.
It's
well, towards on the third section.
If we're talking
Hage
basic
does
scoring,
get his back.
you could say, depending on your rule set, there is some scoring there. You could if that mattered, but it didn't. But so he gets his back. He never gets in hooks though. He never scores.
He never gets in both hooks.
He gets in
the
one
hook.
on the third one, and he kind of like rides him out. And there's a little bit. Doesn't he get away before the end of that, or does it stay there?
I think he ends. I think they end there.
They end,
but
there.
It's beginning to turn into a scramble where it's apparent that that Diego Reis is probably not going to get the second hook in.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty dominant in the third kind of section of the match. Pato has a really good leg entanglement and entry in the beginning of the match from almost like a Husama Palhares entry.
Yeah.
Because he just drops straight back on top.
Right.
He doesn't attempt to roll through. It was interesting. I definitely didn't have an issue with Hage getting it.
I didn't have
but
an
it was
issue
like
with it.
there
It was weird.
You could have definitely made a strong argument for either guy because the match definitely leaned very heavy in the later section for Diego Reis, where he started to get positions going that could have been scoring.
And it's hard in ADCC because you don't see a judge's flag. You don't see a point score. There's not like a fight to win situation where you see the split, the decision. Right. You don't get to see, like, does everyone agree with that? Does all the judges agree? Because they pretty much talk amongst themselves behind the table, whisper in each other's ears and make a decision, and there's a head judge, referee, whatever, dude, who goes, okay, this is what we're doing. All right, this is what we're doing. Yeah,
this
is what we're going to do.
I kind of like that. Like, there's very few things in combat sports where that happens. ADCC, all of them go together and go, that's what I think, and they kind of like, so they all talk it out, and they all go, okay.
I don't like it being not presented. I would rather see, I don't know. I mean,
love the theater of one guy. Of like one gets like we all got together, and the one guy tells you what to be.
I don't like the theater of it.
I love it. So,
as being a person on the wrong end of those things, I don't like the theater.
Yeah, Rob, you've had some. I've been to many of your fights. You've had some rough.
I would like to be like, show me your fucking cards now. Like, all right. Anyway, moving.
So very fun match again. Very very good showing
wild
for both guys.
Wild match.
And I think Pato had all subs going to the finals as well.
Yeah.
Like
he did, and they said.
He had been on the mat like 6 minutes or something up into the finals.
Yeah, they said he didn't have a match that lasted 2 minutes.
Yeah,
was the big.
And I'm kind of upset we're doing the show now because I haven't got a chance to watch Pato's run through yet. But it was good. Diego Reis gets the nod.
So much time in the day.
Goes into ADCC in the under 66 kilogram division, which is stacked. So is under 77. Moving on to under 77. This is sort of the story of the weekend. Is Mica Galvao versus Majig Hage. So Magid was at the East Coast Trials. I think he's dual citizenship. I don't know how it works, but he's at Brazilian Trials. Michael Galvao and Magid ended in the finals, both 5-for-5 subs on the day, highlight reel subs. Michael Galvao had, I think, 2 subs that are going around on Instagram right now, if you can take a look at and watch the matches, that are otherworldly. Like, he had a back take crab ride combination that I have legitimately never seen. And I watch a lot of jiu-jitsu, Rob. And it was a transition from the dog fight. It was like a dog fight to crab ride, or dog fight to arm. It was a transition.
He stepped over,
It was a transition that I have never seen anyone do and be successful with. And he hits it beautifully in one of his earlier matches of the day. He hits a really nice armbar. He hits a rear naked choke. Like, Michael Galvao looked great. Majig also looked great into this match. I was super amped for this finals match. 5-on-5 for the day. And I love that Majid was in a fucking t-shirt and shorts with a pocket.
Dude, okay, so if you don't know anything about Majid in a sense, and the only reason I do is because of the company he keeps, because he's like boys with Jeff Glover.
All the surf fight guys, all the old school.
And Pete the Greek, Latos. Those are all like, they're the best of friends.
Yeah.
And having spent like a day around Pete Latos, he talks about Gorilla Hands a lot. They're like best friends, and he posts about him a lot. So I know who this guy is. So I follow him. He seems to be super chill. That is what I took from watching. I was like,
so Miranda,
I don't know if there's anyone chiller.
Miranda and I went to the rules seminar for East Coast Trials, and he was there. And we've talked about it on the show before, but that dude had very, very good questions and was just like, I wasn't certain. I recognized who he was, but I was like, if I didn't know who he was, I was like, I'm not certain if this guy just like walked in and is like hanging out and like, oh, this rules seminar, and like that vibe. You know, hung out with Jack. He sat on the mat during the rules seminar and like asked questions. I was like, no one else sitting on the mat. Majid just mat side, sitting on the mat, asking questions. You're like, and he had very, very good questions that were very specific. He's also very well known for his ridiculous baseball bat and X jokes.
Yeah,
like he puts some. That's where he makes his name. And where I initially became really familiar with him was just like, oh, he can just choke anyone with that thing.
Right.
So in the finals, he hits like...
He's a big 77 too. Let's bring that up for a second. Having seen him in person and like, you know, the possibility of ending up against him.
You were in 77
yeah,
too.
I was. So he took third at East Coast or fourth? He did not take second. He
did not play second. He did not in the finals.
No. Okay.
No, it was before that.
He fell out a round out to a round out from placement. He lost to, it wasn't Steele. It was, I can't remember. It might have been Taggett.
I don't remember. He went very far. He
was one round out. He had to win. He had to win, and I think he would have then saw Cade. Okay. So I think it was Taggett. Because the third, fourth was Steele
and Taggett.
No, Barks. Finals was Cade and Taggett.
Yeah. Again, this was that weekend. That weekend is a blur to me for what happened. So regardless, he made it close in East Coast Trials, goes to Brazilian Trials, and looks really good. Goes against Michael Galvao. Mica hits a switch single, Majid kind of
Majid gets him down. He gets a
like an outside single kind of.
Outside single, runs it, tries to go for a double there, I believe, gets the takedown. In the process, he jumps on an arm in triangle and pretty much is just a setup for the triangle. So as he gets,
Michael will take the guillotine if it's available to him, but he locks him down. He turns Majid's head angle. Super low, gets him low, and so he can hike his other leg up. He gets his leg over Majid's shoulder, locks up the triangle. There is a bit of a hand fight there to kind of get across, and then it's just a big squeeze, and he finishes and goes 6 for 6 on the day. There was about 30 seconds of adjustment. I don't have much else on the match. It was Mica Galvao is here in a way that, like, this puts a stamp on. Like, we knew he was good. Right. We knew he was real good. We had beaten big guys, like, you knew, but winning at Trials and winning in this fashion at Trials, like, puts a special kind of stamp. Because ADCC is the one in Nogi that everyone cares about. And if you can do it at ADCC at Trials.
I think Galvao is probably, you've got your JT Torres, you got Cade, you've got the if Tonin pops up, the guys that you talk about, it should be theirs.
Here's 77 right now.
I think Mica Galvao should be in the conversation of winning the
whole thing. Let me give you, because we're talking about 77, let's talk about 77.
Yeah. I mean, stacked as shit.
JT Torres, Gary Tonin probably, Dante Leon, Cade Rotolo, Nicky Ryan, Lucas Lepre, Davi Ramos, Lachlan Giles, Michael Galvao, Oliver Taza.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Lachlan fan, and I again a huge Lachlan fan. I don't really count him in on this. Like, that is stacked fucking numbers.
But I'm saying, like,
I still would pull for JT, because I just think out of all
the
them,
3P would be cool.
JT is probably,
he's so hard to score on.
So hard to do anything to. His wrestling, he's also, like, for non-pure wrestler, uses wrestling in a way other guys don't. He's very good at it. But, man, I do not want to count Cade out. The Petrulos are somewhere else right now. They're on a planet amongst themselves. Yeah. So who knows? But Galvao's the same thing. He's the same thing. He just walked through the Brazilian Trials.
This is a 77 kilogram division that I think is rare for a tournament like this to happen that has this level of, like, there are 7 guys that could coin flip it. And I would go like, you can tell me any of the guys want to, like, I can see it. Yeah. That's wild.
And I'm like, I'm going to go do West Coast Trials too, because that makes sense. Because I like wasting my time.
Do it, Rob. Yeah. I'm looking up flights for that right now, because I'm probably going to go too.
I'll just do it on my last minute. Yeah.
Let's see. So 77 is absurd. Yeah. Moving on to the under 88 kilogram division, we have Azaki Bahens versus Claudio Kalazans. So it's really cool. Like, and again, I want to give big props here, not that he needs it at all, to Claudio Kalazans. Like, that dude's already been an ADCC absolute champion. Yeah. He'd done it already. He already fought the super fight, fought Galvao in the super fight. Like, you've already been at the level, and you want back in, and you do try. I'm like, that is some gangster shit on a level that I respect to know. And, like, you already did it.
I didn't really know him. I didn't know who he was at all. Didn't click anything. Especially once you get, once you get over 77, I don't pay that much attention.
Rob fades away.
Yeah, like, obviously the big names, I'll go, huh? But I don't pay attention.
Yeah, multiple time world champion, multiple time ADCC.
So
you kind of should know Claudio.
I'm watching him, and I go, man, he has got a weird ass stance. like how is his approach? And then one of them was like, he's also a judo black belt, and I went, there it is,
right after the throw,
right after the throw.
Because
his stance is incredibly come to me, like get in, and then
with a level of comfort that is weird.
He's not worried at all, but what he's doing is his foot sweeps are. I'm like, okay, well, this guy has a judo background. I don't know how deep it is, but watching him move, I'm like, oh, okay, so he needs you in, like he needs you to commit to the ties on the inside and.
Behance.
Was ever known.
Well, it's like we have messed up Azaki's name for you. I've interviewed him, messed up his name. Azaki Behance, Azaki Braz. It's written as different things. Bahanis, anyway, we said for 2 years.
Behance was mostly trying little blast doubles and pressure, but wasn't.
He would do something interesting. He would like pull at the head, and then he would immediately touch at the feet.
Yeah,
and it was again he was moving, and he's got very I hate the word herky jerky in and out movement in a way that we don't see a lot of guys at 88 do.
No,
he has a very like
we talked about this the last time about what the last time I was on. I was talking about how hard it is to constantly level change feint, level change, and like move the way you would in like wrestling because it's 2 minutes, and when you're doing shit for 8 minutes plus,
for 8 minutes,
it's exhausting.
Up to 16 minutes.
And Behance was doing that.
Yeah,
and it was screwing. Kamar, how did it say his name?
Claudio Kalazans.
I wrote down the wrong damn name there. I don't know.
Who'd you write down?
I just shortened it. Anyway, Claudio. You could tell. So at first, it wasn't bothering him. It wasn't really a problem at all. Like he just seemed like okay, you'll come to me eventually.
Right.
And then it started kind of breaking him down. He wasn't finding the opening he was looking for. He wasn't getting the the read he needed
off of the reaction
for any of those foot sweeps. So yeah, it just the outcome made sense.
There was an interesting piece here. There's a neat throw that Claudio goes for on Azaki in the match. I don't know exactly where it is in the match, and you can see him cycle between 3 different throws during the throw attempt. I thought he goes for like an inside trip, an outside trip, like an outside hip throw, and and he also goes for like a really neat like low hip to hip counter throw. Like a variation of an inside Uchimata. I don't know I'm butchering all of the judo.
I know. I remember this.
And you watch this. I was like, wow, that is really a unique sequence. And he lands almost like in the turtle, like you would in judo. And then you see him with kind of her back, like doing jiu-jitsu. Obviously, comes back to the guard. There was an interesting tactical thing. Claudio pulls, gets the -1.
Right.
Because after the first 4 minutes, if you pull, you get a -1, and then. Later in the match, there was an interesting point that I think Kynan made it, either in this match or a later match. I think it was in the 99 match. We'll talk about. Yeah, he kind of makes the point in the 99 match. Actually, I'll get to that point.
Yeah,
it's an interesting rules point with pulling guard and when you pull versus when you concede a takedown. And so Claudio pulls. Claudio pulls again.
It's in that match.
No, it's in the Roosevelt. It's Roosevelt Souza versus.
Is it?
Pedro Pimenta.
Okay, because I thought that. Well, he already had a negative. Or maybe I am getting them confused. I thought he already had a one. He had a point against.
What's up, Rob? Welcome to doing 12 matches in a weekend. You get used to it after a while, but initially it does tend to blend together a little bit. And I
do remember the call. The announcers pointing out like he went for. I thought it was Claudio who did that.
No,
but so I know at the very end he tried to.
He pulls again, and Azak kind of like takes because of that because he doesn't have anything else to do. He knows he's down, knows he's losing, and then Azak kind of settles the position and wins it on the negative points. And this is Azak's first trials win, and I thought it was really neat to have a guy like Claudio Kalazans in the trials. Attempting to win a slot back into ADCC because he wasn't present at ADCC 2019. So that was cool. I could see him getting a slot. Again, all the divisions are absolutely full. I think 88 is full, but I don't know. I think all the divisions are pretty much full. Yeah. So Azaki gets a slot, takes a very close match over Claudio, but just really beats him on kind of pace and like limiting Claudio's options from the feet. Next match, we have the under 99 kilogram division.
This match.
We have João Costa versus Jose Henrique Cardoso. This was mostly just a hand-fighting wrestling match that at one point they go into the side table, they break the computer that the broadcast is happening for, and it freezes the screen for like 30 seconds. They restart it, and they go on. Cardoso gets it via like more. He just did more. Is really how I saw this match. He has more successful push-out attempts. He has more getting in the leg. He's a little more aggressive overall versus Joao Costa. What do you have, Rob?
Okay, so yes, he the one thing he did that I remember pointing out, I was like, oh, that's interesting. He actually like reshot more. That's something you don't see a lot of at. Okay, you don't see that shit at 99 and under 99.
No,
like you don't see a lot of reshooting. And early on, he was doing it like a lot. It was constantly like level change. Something they break away from each other. He reshoots again, drives them out. Now, granted, the one thing that was lacking in this was like real strong hand fighting, and I feel like the heavier you get, hand fighting needs to be just so important to your game. And they were doing a lot more of the like, inner finger
mercy grip,
the mercy grip, which is kind of bullshit, and it just slows everything down.
I think even the broadcast they talked about kind of maybe we should ban the mercy grip because you're not doing anything with it. It's stalling. It's a stalling grip for both guys.
You don't even see it in freestyle anymore, which is where it like really was its
came to prominence. Yeah.
Like in freestyle and Greco, you see it a little bit, but it's not, nothing's coming of it.
Right. So you can't break your hands off to do anything with it.
Yeah. I mean, the reshots were what really stuck out to me of him constantly going it. He just wasn't going to commit any further than he needed to. And then, like you have they ran into the computer. The match was sort of a mess at times.
To put it nicely,
that was definitely a match. What we said earlier about Sweat. They couldn't do anything because eventually they were getting to each other's legs and it was just like, get off me. Like they couldn't hold on to anything. They both were.
There were two bigger 99 under 99 shirtless dudes.
And exhausted.
They were exhausted. Yeah. That neither of which could ever get a grip, and because they didn't have the mat essentially to push against because somebody wasn't on the ground, these matches it is a really interesting problem that is somewhat unique to submission grappling. I kind of me speaking.
They were getting below the knee a lot on their shots, which is like pretty useless when you don't have shoes on and you're sweaty. Like when you're dry, cool. Shoot below the knee.
You can pick an ankle. You can pick a knee.
You might be able to pull that off. When you're sweaty as hell and you have no shoes on, you're grabbing a fish covered in frickin' jelly, lubricant.
It is an interesting kind of problem, and I kind of want to ask you about this. In jiu-jitsu, because we have such longer matches, and in certain organizations you can go shirtless, how much do you think that changes like the takedown game? Because in wrestling, again, you have shorter periods. You have guys with singlets on. You have shoes on. Like, how much eventually do you sort of get into almost you have to have a stalemate unless someone pulls in submission grappling at a certain point because guys are physically too sweaty to get down.
I think Nicky Rodriguez came up with a solution for the bigger guys, and that is snap them on their damn face. Like snap, 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 snap. And these guys were doing it. They were playing on the back of the head. They were getting the head, pretty much slamming the chin into the sternum, but they weren't doing anything with it. And really, like, I think the chain there, the chain wrestling that would need to happen there is you get your corner, you get to a leg, and you work to get to the back. And the small guys do that really well.
Yeah.
Like in
you basically
jiu-jitsu,
cut behind the hips.
Yeah, all you're looking to do is get to a single and get to the back. Get to a single, get to the back. Single, get to the back.
Right.
Because blasting it on a double against a really square defensive stance can get hard unless you are fast as shit or just a tank.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of what you said it, what Nicky Rod does. Like, he gets to the single, and then he will immediately fight for the back. After he'll get guys down with a big snap down as well, but he'll also like cut that angle and get to the back of guys, and that's where he made a lot of his success.
Because most of your control is simple at that point. You know, depending on the scoring system, you got to still get your hooks in, but you're in a very dominant position. You're also in a position where you can drop that dude on their head pretty easily, so you can take some life out of them too and just slow them down.
Right.
And it was something that I think that was lacking in that match was the chain wrestling, like trying to put together something, because getting on one single when you're that sweaty, that tired, that big, it's really just you're pushing. I mean, granted, it will win you the match in a judge's decision, but it doesn't show me that you're going to do much at the higher level.
Right.
Like you're missing a component, and those other guys have it. Like, there's people in that weight class that do very well, and in like long chain wrestling.
There'd be monsters here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
Interesting match. We have. I'm looking at the wrong one. Cardoso gets the invite to ADCC off of this one on the plus 99 kilogram division. Kind of one of the, I think, more fun finishing sequences of the finals. Maybe Michael Galvao, but
that was probably I would say
this is better. It was better. It was better. So we had Roosevelt Souza taking on Pedro Pimenta, little over 2 minutes, and I love this match. I wish Zach were here because Zach has a special place in his heart for calf slicers, for big guy calf slicers. Yeah. And
came on brutal too.
It did come on brutal, and Pedro screamed out, as he got calf slicered here. So this is where I'll get into what commentary was explaining through the match. On commentary kind of explains that you can't pull guard in the finals of any ADCC match, and that includes trials. So because there are no points in the first 4 minutes, if you want to be playing from your guard, you let the guy take you down because there's no points. You are kind of behind on the judges' scorecards there, but if you want to be playing from the guard, then either you have to shoot and then drive for a leg and then pull off of it, but in plus 99, you do not want a 250-pound plus dude.
But the way Roosevelt took him down was very... Yep, you wanted that.
Yeah, he got the single, and then Roosevelt Souza goes, "Oh, you took me down," and goes right into the guard. And but I think that's what prompted Kynan to explain that. Where it was obviously he has chosen to go in the guard here, and tactically that's why he did that. And I went, "Oh, that's a really good take." Oh, right, Kynan is the plus 99 kilogram champion for ADCC. That makes sense that he would, and he's from Atos. It makes sense that he would have a high level understanding of all the ways that you can game and plan the rules for. He's also been at the Modelfo camps, and Mo's, he has talked to Mo directly about like rules and like what to do in these situations. So it was cool for him to give us a little bit of that insight on commentary. Roosevelt Souza kind of like, I think the best way to put it, I have it in my notes as ass shuffle. The butterfly hook, kind of like butterfly. What do they call it? Butt scoot. I think is the better way to say that.
Yeah, butt scoot, forward shrimp, depending on like your angle.
Yeah, but it was a butt scoot.
It was a butt scoot.
It was a butterfly guard butt scoot.
Yeah.
And then eventually he gets to Pedro's leg, and then he enters into...
He goes 50... He has a straight ankle... Well, he controls it with a straight ankle lock first.
Yeah.
And then he goes backside 50-50 to get to it. Then he goes...
Frontside 50-50.
Frontside 50-50. Then he goes to the heel hook.
Well, then he goes inverted X guard for a second.
Yeah.
And then from the inverted X guard, he goes back to frontside 50-50. He goes for the heel hook. Then on the turn, he does something really interesting. He pulls his leg that is not controlling the heel hook leg underneath of the thigh of Pedro and like kicks him forward a little bit. So instead of being able to running man forward, Pedro has to basically come straight up with the knee line to escape because he's trying to running man and push out.
At first, it looked like he was just going to take his back, and then you realize, oh, that leg is caught.
And he had the hand trapped over the heel. He basically forces Pedro, instead of running man out, he forces him to go up
backwards.
And then he is able to push him forward, pushes him on, basically has Pedro fall over his own calf slicer, because he still has the leg threaded on the side.
That was a gruesome facial expression he made.
Also, he's looking straight. The camera shot had a straight look at the face
of just a man in peril,
excruciating pain.
Yeah, he was tapping with a facial expression that said, "I think something just burst."
Yeah, and he kind of lay there for a second after.
Yeah.
And Roosevelt Souza was very happy that he got the win, and now has the trials entrance. Overall, wild sequence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like beautiful leg pummeling to go from, again, the backside 50-50 to the frontside 50-50 to come inside with the leg to turn him over, and like to have the ability to make that leg pummel and change while Pedro is actively looking to unravel the 50-50 and turn and running man out is just...
Oh, no, that transition for that size, and Roosevelt is not small.
No.
He is a substantial... He also looks substantially bigger than Pedro.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's a big guy. And just to be able to maneuver that body
we're
essentially your
seeing
shins...
more and more. We were talking about in the Victor Hugo match versus Igor Schneider at Fight to Win. We are seeing... Even like Max Jimenez. Like, he's big, but he's flexible. And like we are seeing... The time of the old, rigid heavyweight that's just a big guy has passed. Like guys that have a dexterity in their game, that have like attributes at heavyweight and at plus 99, like Nicky Rod. Like
what's the age on Pedro?
That's a very good
Maybe
question,
not.
Rob. I wish I would
Just
have.
wondering when that runs out for him.
No idea. But again, the days of like the big guys that are just like big guys being as competitive at those weight classes, I think have really started to slide away as we get guys like Victor Hugo,
the other thing,
Nicky Rod, Roosevelt.
As much as people don't, they might want to not admit this, but the athletes have shown up.
Yeah.
Like big dude athletes, it's like this in most sports. Like, okay, I mean, one of the bigger problems in MMA is if you're that big,
you go into any other sport,
you're going to play
money.
football to make money.
Yeah.
So occasionally, when one trickles in as a super athlete, he owns everything.
Yeah.
And he just dominates. And it's like when that happens and you get these guys that are that fucking big, but they move like lightweights. I mean, that's one of the scariest things to see.
Is an athletic heavyweight.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
Like a special heavyweight.
It's also amazing because if you're a promoter, you just see dollar signs everywhere because you know people are going to pay money to see that. Like that's
because it's a true spectacle because it's rare.
He's a fucking big dude. Like, I mean, I love seeing the guys closer to my size or a little bit bigger because I'm like, oh, I can relate to you. And they're usually the most athletic people in the room.
Yeah.
Like that average size of
that bell curve
160
of human,
to 170.
Like,
yeah. That's where the most athletic males tend to exist because we're not too big. It's not too small. It's like, the three bears just right type situation. But when you get up and you're talking 200 plus, bordering on 250 plus, you're like, whoa. Especially when they move fast. I mean, move fast and their agility, everything. It's crazy. And when we talked about Fight to Win, we can get into that more because Hugo's the same fucking way.
Women's under 60 kilogram final. I struggled with the name Gianna Sains versus Dana Torque. Give me that name, Rob. No pressure.
Oh, fuck you asking me. Torquato.
Dana took a really dominant victory over Sains. Side control for most of the match, eventually transitions to the back, is working on throwing in the rear naked choke, getting very close to it when time runs out. Again, takes a very dominant points victory. Unfortunately for the women, this is not because there are only 8 women in the ADCC, this is not a winning trial spot because the women's trials are only every other trials. Yeah. So although she wins trials, which is a fantastic accomplishment, this next weekend's trials will feature the women's divisions, which will then give us an entrant into the women's plus 60 and minus 60 kilogram divisions.
Does she need to win again?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is just...
So it's just the same way ours is, the winner.
Correct. Well, and I'm not sure if you get an entrance in...
Anybody pay for her to go to that one?
I don't know. I know that
Tom to Blast.
Tom to Blast does that for the U.S. trials.
Because
he runs the East Coast trials.
East Coast one.
Yeah.
He'll pay for you to get the West Coast.
Yeah, which is cool. And then they also got prize money.
Yeah.
I think Mo put up $1,000 prize money per winner.
Was it just 1,000?
I don't know exactly what it was, but I know that the winners did get paid out.
No, they did. It was like 1,000
something like that for money, and the women did win money. I do not know if that's the case for Brazilian trials. I kind of expect that it is, but we will see this weekend. 2 women get a spot for those 2 divisions, which is good. Again, I do like that they have the trials for women.
The next one, maybe 2 years from now when they do it again, 2024. I feel like we could start to get this closer to men.
We will get a third weight class. We were supposed to. We were going to get a third weight class this time.
Do you think it runs the same though? Do you think we still?
I do. I just think if you look at the
2 trials to make it in.
You only have to win the one, but there is a second opportunity.
But it's 2 opportunities. Yeah.
I do think they're going to expand to 3 women's weight classes. I would love to see that. If you look at the registration numbers for men in trials and women in trials, even the second trials, it is still. Half the entrance is still not comparable.
I think women overall tend to gravitate towards gi more than men, but that's fading. I feel that's fading. Just in the same way that gi was more predominant a few years ago. I think that's fading. But I feel like women still walk into a school and they find the benefits of being in gi, especially against men.
Yeah.
Or they can use that leverage and advantages in the more true form of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu of saying, like, that it doesn't matter how big you are until you run into someone who does all the same things.
Until you run into Roosevelt Souza and it totally does matter how big you are. So that was trials. We're not going to preview the next trials this week because, again, it will be. We've just previewed it. That we don't know who's in this one. I don't have any entrants for in it. We're going to have a bunch of Brazilian monsters that show up to the next one this following week, as we always do at Brazilian Trials. Hopefully, again, we have video like we had at this Trials because historically that has somewhat been an issue. So I'm hoping that, it runs very similar. The Sao Paulo Trials are going to be the bigger of the trials, allegedly, so that's exciting. It's also the last chance for you to win a South American spot into ADCC, so look out for more hot fire coming from Brazil this weekend. Do you want to move into Toro Cup or do you want to move into Fight to Win?
Toro Cup's short, right?
It is short.
Kind of shorter one.
So let's do Fight to Win first and then finish with Toro Cup. So Fight to Win 193. I was kind of upset we didn't get to preview this more. We didn't have any entrants until the event came out, or a day before the event came out, because there was a bunch of really good matches on this. Where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with the main event, or do you want to end at the main event, Victor Hugo versus Igor Schneider?
We can start with this Diego Cruz one. I will say I watched a chunk of the prelims on this, what you would call the prelims, I guess you'd say, because, God, this thing was 6 hours.
Yeah.
So I watched a chunk of that earlier in the day, fell asleep, did the recap later, and caught up with everything else. Dude, a Fight to Win in Austin at this point, it's got to be 6 hours. There's too many damn gyms. Yeah. And there's so many. And it's just a hotbed of just no-gi grappling at this point. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know.
There's a bunch of places that are like that.
A younger me would be thinking like, oh, I need to go live in Austin. But probably wouldn't happen. But I would definitely be making trips there.
I looked at moving there 10 years ago.
For all the trips I used to take to TriStar and all over the country to train like that, and other spots in the U.S. and other countries, Austin now would be the place I'd be going if I was looking to get better at this and I was younger. And
there's no snow.
There's no. Actually, that's a lie. There is snow.
Okay.
So our stuff, Baltimore BJJ stuff, is made at Cruise Combat. Cruise Combat sponsors a lot of these fighters. They're based in Austin. Mm-hmm. I call them we're going over some stuff. I have to call the main guy, and he's like, "Hey, man, so I'm gonna get on this tomorrow. The shop's closed because we have snow and we don't know what to do." The other quick snow story, my friend.
My whole family's from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they didn't. So you guys your whole family just started getting snow
Correct.
A year ago.
Yeah. Well, it happened, but it was rare.
So they got real snow.
Yeah.
A year ago. Did. Real snow.
And it usually only happens every once or 20.
And they didn't know
years.
what they didn't know what to do.
No.
So my friend, it's a quick story. My friend has 5 pit bulls.
This is usually for the outro sections, Rob. He's not in the
We're gonna
middle
do it really, really
recap.
quick. He has we're talking about Austin. He has 5 pit bulls, and he's outside playing with them. And I was like, "Oh man, it's really fun." He's like, "Yeah, man, snow." I was like, "That's great, dude. You know what happens when that thaws? And it all goes away, and your whole yard's mud." And he's like, "You motherfucker!" And I just totally bummed him out and ruined his day because he didn't realize, because he's never had that problem. That once the snow melts, it just turns into fucking mud, and your dogs, his many dogs, tracked it to his house.
Yep.
Anyway, back to this.
Banded that to me a couple days ago when we had snow.
It happens.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, let's talk about. We're going to talk about kind of the last 5 matches that happened on Fight to Win. We had Robert Diego versus Angel Cruz. I'm not sure if this is Robert Diego's first time on Fight to Win. It's his first time we've covered him, I think, as a black belt on Fight to Win.
I don't think it's his first time.
I don't think it's his first time. I think it's his first time as a black belt, though.
Yeah.
I think he was on at least as a brown belt, a purple belt. He's been on Fight to Win before. I think this is the first black belt match. He went versus Angel Cruz. He entered into the legs. He goes into the K guard. He pulls it to the chest, and then he gets
One
into
of the deepest foot in the asses defenses I've ever seen.
Yeah, Angel Cruz puts his toes
in his ass.
Yeah,
they were deep in his ass to get out of that hold. Diego.
Overall, eventually Diego enters, I think, 3 times into the legs.
He gets in twice.
And then Angel Cruz is able to escape, not without, some work.
The first one was in deep, and I was surprised he got out. I was actually like, whoa, okay, good for you. Mm-hmm. The second one, not as deep, not as much trouble either. The first one, it was like, he could definitely hurt him here.
Yeah.
The second time around, I was like, he's getting out of this. Because, one, the length of Cruz's legs, he's a bit bigger than Deagle. Mm-hmm. It was harder for him to really get a good bite on him. And then Cruz's game was you can't really fault him for what he did. He
No.
stayed just outside, in, out, in, out, in, out. And really...
And then even towards the end of the match, he played a very, distance game where he wouldn't let Diego get underneath him and into him.
And Diego wasn't really pushing the action either.
No.
He'd scooting towards him and then stop. Scooting towards him
It's similar to what we saw Diego do on Polaris.
Yes.
Where it's like we saw him kind of
Same thing he did at ADCC.
Yeah, trials.
At the trials, yeah. And honestly, I'm a fan. I watch a lot of stuff he does, and I'm a fan of his little breakdowns and things. And there's pieces of his game missing in my opinion. I mean, he's incredible.
I would love to see him wrestle up, because there was one moment where he looks like he's going to start to wrestle up, and Angel kind of pushes him down, and that was the extent of it.
East Coast Trials, that was what lost him the match. It's the same thing. I would think, this is just my opinion. I'm not.
Well, he's at B team now. Yeah, in a room with a bunch of guys that are going to push the wrestling.
One thing we've seen out of the B team guys is they are transitioning to mentally, physically into a much different state for ADCC. They're competitively is probably the word I should have used.
Yeah,
competitively, they're pushing the wrestling because what they're getting ready for, and they know it's a place they can lose. So that makes sense that Diego would go there. They have good wrestlers there that are helping push them. But I have not seen the change, and he's doing all these tournaments. He's doing tons of regional tournaments, local tournaments. He's doing this. I'm still seeing the same guy that was at East Coast Trials who had a problem with that.
Right, with the scoring from the wrestle
up and then going back down. Coming up, then going back down. And it just is a kind of a glaring hole. And again, I'm not talking shit on the dude. I'm just saying when I watch him from a breakdown standpoint, the thing that is missing and is going to hurt him when he, come West Coast Trials, because that's what he's building towards, is going to be that aspect of his game, because it's not hard to game him. It's not hard to look at how you have to do it. I'm not saying shit, I could end up with the first fucking round and get subbed in seconds. But gaming him, I know what to kind of avoid and what he won't be willing to do unless he's going to change something.
And now there's enough tape on him. It'll be interesting.
He's going to have to change that game.
Yeah, because guys will have at the higher level have gone, cool, I can force you to have to wrestle up here and push you down. But I'm hoping that at B team we see him expand that knowledge and go into heavy ADCC where it's cool, the stand up wrestling's gonna come. It was just seeing Cruz push him down and Diego be willing. And again, in the fight to win rule set, very clear decision win for Diego here. Absolutely the right thing he should have done here. But I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see that in the game, because I want to see him be successful.
Doesn't win you at ADCC.
No,
it doesn't. He could. All Cruz would have to do is one little thing in overtime, and he takes it.
Yeah,
he could crush into him for a little bit, and it's well, there you go, that's it.
Yeah,
and that's not going to work at ADCC.
Mm-hmm. So that was that match again. Very clear win for Diego in the fight to win a rule set. But I want to see him. I want to see him at West Coast Trials. I want to see him deep into West Coast Trials versus those top level guys, because I think he has a really interesting leg lock game, and I want to see him couple that with the ability to force guys to play into it.
Now I'm going to have him first round.
He's 66, I think. I think he's 66.
You're right. He is 66, isn't he? Yeah, he is. I thought he was 77. He cut and he was dieting down. Yeah. You're right.
Rob, just get hella fat. Just go to 88. They'll never expect it.
Right, that's what I'll do.
They'll never expect it, Rob.
5'6", 88 me.
So next match we have Giancarlo Bordoni versus Felipe Costa. This was, again, a really fun match. We saw Giancarlo.
I like Bordoni.
Yeah. Bordoni's good. He had an amazing run at West Coast Trials. We saw him get leg locked at
East Coast Trials.
What'd I say?
Said West Coast.
Yeah, sorry. He had a great run at East Coast Trials for ADCC. He won that convincingly and aggressively. I had to coach against him. That was fun. Versus Felipe Costa, he looked really good. I was extremely impressed with basically how he comboed his top game with his bottom game, and he forced Felipe Costa to fight him in both.
Yeah,
and seemed comfortable and ahead in both.
Yeah, Bordoni looked like he's matured a ton, and this whole the Danaher, whatever the hell they call themselves now, the new
wave.
Cool.
Yeah,
them. It looks, obviously, he's adapting to the leg lock game, because that's how he finished this one. Mm-hmm. And Philippe was, in it, but he was kind of backing up. And Bordoni was kind of just, going forward, moving forward. They played the edge a lot, which I don't really think a fight to win that's really smart. I think it can
Not
get you
really.
in a lot of trouble. And we saw it in some of the prelims matches, things going out of bounds, and then you're coming back. Actually, I was going to, I have that note from an earlier match from, was it Clerk or whatever? Anyway, the one TriStar dude. Playing the edge of the mat, if you don't know, and fight to win is a really good recipe to get reset in the center with a very bad submission synced in, and it's like, all right, this isn't the best thing to do. And Costa was doing that. He was allowing himself to get backed up, and he was in a position where it's like, all right, well, if this goes bad and you roll out, all they're going to do is put you back in that position with your leg or whatever caught up. And I thought I can't remember how he ended up coming underneath him.
Basically, Giancarlo inverts.
Yeah,
over.
he
And
just
there's some great transitions earlier in the match. Again, I was impressed with Bodoni throughout with kind of where he was deciding to controlling. It was his game is starting to look more and more like Gordon's.
Yeah,
we're here. Oh, next position. I'll just beat you here, and I'll just come to the next place, and I'll be comfortable here, and then I'll transition out into the next thing I want to do in like that very systematic, just extra step ahead that Gordon seems to have on guys. We are starting to see that from Giancarlo in this match of like, oh yeah, Felipe Costa is no joke, and it's a very, very good competitor that does not have this happen to him.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. The finishing sequence was great. We see Giancarlo inverts to almost Kiss of the Dragon, inverted X guard. He's in between his legs, but he's inverted, and he has the X guard on the opposite leg. And he almost goes to the backside knee bar. He flares the knee to get to the backside heel hook, and then he throws his top leg over and pushes away to get the non-trapped leg for Costa into the heel hook.
He had his knee turned in a bad way when that went. I think he looked like he hurt him.
It was a deep heel hook. And
Costa got up in a bad way with his knee, and the way the knee was pointed, especially in the replay, you could see where it was oh god, that was bad.
Well, the thing it's a one-legged heel hook.
Yeah.
Because Bodoni had control of the inside of the thigh, was snaked all the way through, and then with Bodoni's outside leg, because he's on his back, he can push Costa away with his free leg. And so he pushed him away with the free leg, but pushed him away towards where the heel hook would become turned down, so you can push away from. So Giancarlo's top leg is pushing Costa in the wrong direction.
He didn't let go of that till the ref stopped him either.
Yeah.
That was the tap was happening, and that ref pulled it, and it was 2 seconds. That might have been about 2 seconds too long.
It was a long tap.
The
ref came over, and again, we couldn't tell if he was still cranking on it, but he still
engaged.
Had it, and he still had pressure on it, and the ref calls it, and I was like, ooh, that was a deep heel hook.
Right.
Again, super impressive performance from Giancarlo. Again, hopefully Costa is not injured. It was just a really phenomenal showing from Bodoni. He elected to not slam in the match, and I found that really interesting. He was like, no, why would I interrupt this position, this chain that I'm going for by slamming? I'm just gonna kind of let this work itself out. And that was because the commentary called for it. He's gonna slam, and they went,
slam.
Oh, he's not.
Kind of gently put him down.
And he just put him down. He just decided to keep going. That was very interesting, because in that position, especially in fight to win, where he was, most competitors is advantageous to slam there because you are scoring. And Giancarlo elected to not and just continue going. It was a unique. You do not see it super often in fight to win. Next match we had Tracy Goodell. You have anything else on that match?
No.
Other than I want to see what it is. I want to see what it does in the ADCC. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see big things, and then
he still has 7 months of training with Gordon and John, and I am very curious to see what additional improvements he makes to his game. I hope we see him on some more for who's number one.
He looked great at East Coast Trials. That's what we've only had 3 months.
Yeah.
And this looks like a more willing person to really scrap on his back.
Who did he get? He got heel hooked by someone at was it Jits King?
I don't
or was
remember.
Was it Emerald City? It was Emerald City, I think. Emerald City Invitational. He got heel hooked by I'm forgetting.
I would know this.
Not Sanchez. It was someone.
Yeah.
And again, they brought up a commentary that he's been working on that, and that was obvious.
It's what's beaten him a few times.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's been obvious he was working on it, and so he gets it done. So next match we have Tracy Goodell versus Patricia Machado. Goodell was in the driver's seat for this entire match. She works the Kimura to
sided. I lost interest. Like I was like, okay, she's gonna control.
Yeah.
And one comment from her facial expression is ice cold. It is
very, very stoic, Rob.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Anytime, even when the few moments where something could start to go wrong,
like a pass was starting. Machado was starting to get a pass going at one point, and you saw Tracy go, no,
just dead. Just yeah. I respect that.
Continued offense from Tracy for this entire match. He sets up a really nice Kimura from the guard, uses it to enter into like a triangle Kimura. Machado gets out of it and is able to kind of reset to the guard, and then right back, Tracy sets up a nice collar drag from the butt over, ends up getting onto the back off of another sequence, and then transitions to bow and arrow. She transitions because when she gets the back, she's really high. You see her elect to go to the bow and arrow grip and then sit down to her butt because it puts Machado's head lower on her chest. She doesn't decide to try to fight for the choke from the back in that position because the head is so low. I thought it was a really interesting transition to decide to make because essentially, if you start to fight for the choke when you are kind of tilted over on their back like that, you can get shucked off and you can lose the grip.
So she dropped all her weight.
You drop all your weight and lower, and then you end up with you're sitting flat and they're in your lap, and it's a much better way to set the choke. It was a really nice adjustment because a lot of people, especially on a big stage like Fight to Win, will get overzealous and will like go for the first choke that they can get. Tracy looked and went, not in a good position to finish this. I'm going to come back.
In control the whole time, as you said, and also just really never looked like she cared. Never looked like she cared about what was happening to her. Like any little tiny position she started to lose, if she was like, "Yeah, I'll get this back," which is, that demeanor and mindset goes miles in grappling, in competition in general.
Very, very nice showing. On to the main event, we had Victor Hugo taking on Igor Schneider. They said Hugo was 270. I don't think he is quite that big, but he's big. He
fucking might be.
He's big. But again, both Igor Schneider and Victor Hugo are big. This is what we talked about in the earlier match with Roosevelt Souza, like the big, flexible athletes that can play guard and they can play from the bottom at heavyweight and at super heavyweight and ultra heavyweight. They're here. Victor Hugo is the future for these guys, and that was on display. Like, he continued to throw up omoplatas and triangles like off his back in a way that we used to just not see big guys do.
No,
it was like a flash.
Because they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't want to be there. They wouldn't want to put their weight on top of them.
And then they'd get past. And Hugo, we've seen it. Go back and watch Victor Hugo's matches with Roberto Cyborg. Like, those matches are very telling because like he's willing to play in the guard. His other Fight to Win runs, he is willing to play from the guard, and he is willing to like suck you into that guard game and throw up submissions and offense and entries into the leg off of that guard game in a way that more and more we are seeing heavyweights, like John Hansen, another heavyweight, won East Coast Trials, willing to do. Like, bigger guys play guard now, and again, getting my head around that in like a consistent way, in that it not being this weird outlier thing that only a couple guys do. Like, we saw it twice this weekend in both heavyweight matches that we're covering. That like, the guard is a dangerous tool for big guys, and they're using it effectively at the highest levels. Jiu-jitsu is starting to kind of come together again, where it's like, what works at the lower weight classes also works at the heavyweight weight classes. Let's see. Yeah, basically there's a triangle, there's an omoplata, Hugo comes on top, leg lock, he goes from the bottom, and then gets the leg. And then he finishes and gets a very clear decision.
Yeah. So, one thing I wanted to say on that, sorry, I'm realizing how my sleep is being affected. Anyway, Hugo really struggled. The one thing, he did everything well, did everything great, but the one thing that was a struggle for him was the fact that Hugo struggled with all the leg entanglements because Igor was so much smaller than him. And it was like, they're both big guys.
Yeah.
But Hugo is gigantic. First off, if you've ever played Final Fight, any of the games, there's a character named Hugo in it. It's gigantic. And all I thought about every time I was like imagining the big Frankenstein looking guy in Final Fight walking at him. But Igor is this short, stout man, circular, like he's a chubby guy. And those legs, Hugo, it's what saved him. He just could not get a good enough bite on any position. And some of them, one of the heel hooks was bad. One of them was like,
deep. It was very deep.
Deep. And I was like, God, how is he not able to do this? And the best I can figure is he just could not get, it couldn't suck up enough knee line. And with how short his legs are, he was able to pretty much just like turn that heel in and just keep it protected the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was...
But it's good defense from Igor. Like I was impressed with the defense. Like
his defense was good. It wasn't just because he was
the
short.
body
It just
style
helped
of like you have a leg length here that is going to cause a disparity with a bigger guy.
Right.
Like use that to dive the knee line across so that like there isn't enough knee line to finish the heel hook. They have to reach. Victor had to Victor had to reach.
I'm screwing this up too because you have all these Frankenstein names and like.
Had to reach lower on his body for the heel hook. He's not up nice and tight. He's a little lower and gives you a little less purchase on the heel to get over.
It allowed him a few extra seconds every time he got to the actual sub of the leg entanglement. Whatever situation they were in, it gave him just enough time to get into a position where he could hide his heel.
Yeah.
And it was just, that body made it pretty much so. But yeah, I mean, Hugo looked awesome. He moves and has the flexibility of like,
not a 260 pound man,
whatever the hell he is.
So, Victor, I don't think this is for the title, but I foresee Hugo fighting for the title in the near future. I thought he had the title.
I thought he is. I thought they said
is it title.
That.
I didn't see them put a belt around him.
Yeah, because it wasn't a title fight.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it was.
I'm almost positive they announced him.
That's what I thought.
And then they said it's just not a title fight.
Okay, and that's what I got confused about.
He was like a fill-in.
Wasn't
it?
Okay.
Isn't Igor? I thought he was. It wasn't the original match.
I don't remember because we didn't have the preview of the match last week. The only match we knew last week was Pierre Vela Clerk versus Chemo Anderson.
Right. Yeah.
Which again we can cover that now actually.
Right.
Pierre Vela Clerk looked really good. His first match. Is he black belt now? He's black. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a black belt. Looked really good versus Chemo Anderson. He basically swept him and then passed. And then positionally throughout the entire match, like just prevented Anderson from being able to open up his game.
This is the match I was talking about earlier. This was
the edge of the mat.
The bad part about being on the edge of the mat and going off the mat, going off that stage in a heel hook. It drags back to the middle, and now you are sitting dead center of the mat.
With no momentum.
No momentum. And that guy looking you dead in the eyes, he's about to try to break your freaking leg. Now, granted, Anderson, way to go, dude. You didn't get your shit blown out right there. Like he was able to fight it off, but
and we saw some like a really game
Clark
guy
was going at him
in who's number one match. So again, we knew that he was game. We knew that he was we knew that he could do it. It was just
and he was in leg entanglements. He was entering them. He was in that he was number one like 2 weeks ago or whenever that was.
Mostly from the guard.
Yeah,
Anderson.
But he would pull it from. In this match was much because that was against the Penn State kid.
Yeah, Morelli.
Yeah, so much different style match from him. This time he's dealing with. He's the one trying to pass. He's the one trying to get somewhere, and he's just dealing with a really good guard guy. Like really using it anytime that knee shield came high, he pretty much was going to roll underneath you, and then it was hunting saddle, and He so when I actually used to train TriStar, he was there off
Pierre.
Pierre was, and I saw him. We never actually got to roll. I rolled with Ethan and a couple of the other ones, but I never rolled with him. But he is very fucking good.
Yeah,
he's really coming into his own, and it's
apparent.
Yeah.
Now he's in Austin, so
right.
Again, great event, fight to win 193. Next week we have another fight to win. I don't have any announcements or names for that yet. We have BOA Super 8 next week. We have ADCC South American Trials next week, and then Euros in 2 weeks. I have previews for none of those right now because we don't have any entrants for South American Trials. I checked before the show, as is tradition with the Grappling Rewind. Recording this Monday at 10 o'clock. Tuesday morning at 8 a.m., we're going to have a whole list of names in a bracket probably. That's always how it happens.
That was it. Magid, Gorilla Hands. Majid. Whatever.
We're probably pronouncing his name incorrect as always.
You know what I can pronounce? Gorilla Hands. So since I can say that, he's doing it.
Yeah, Victor Hugo. Okay. Yeah, Victor Hugo is the champ. They have a picture of him with the title here.
Yeah. He just like this. I don't think it was a title fight.
Okay.
I don't think, because he didn't come out. They didn't say anything about that. At least I don't think. Maybe it was.
I don't know. I'm looking for anything for Fight to Win 194, and I don't see anything posted right now. So
Where is that one?
Yeah, Rob. I'm looking for stuff, and I don't know. It's not posted right now.
Oh, is it in?
So regardless, watch Fight to Win this next weekend. It also happens with ADCC Trials. Did we cover Toro Cup yet?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about Toro Cup before I end the show abruptly here. We had Toro Cup 19. There were two matches I wanted to talk about. We had Gabriel Souza taking on DeAndre Corbre. Great match throughout. It's about a 20-ish minute match probably. It goes the full 15 minutes, non-scoring, and then it goes to overtime. And overtime is first to score.
It was 17. It was like almost. It was a 15-minute match.
Yeah.
And then I think it was 20. Yeah, whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah,
it was long as hell.
It was a very long match. It was a phenomenal match. Watch the match. You haven't seen the match? It is worth it. DeAndre Corbre at the end of the match, they reset. They go back into the center of the mat to restart for overtime. And DeAndre Corbre hits an outside single to Gabriel Souza's back.
So to break down what he does watching it, he's got double wrist control. He cross grips to an arm drag and goes for a double when the leg isn't there, and he blocks it because essentially Souza kind of down blocks, kind of. He quickly redirects himself, gets to the single, and then pops out the back, coming around the hip and takes his back. Yeah. And then that was where he hops on, gets pretty much a cross body ride. Mm-hmm. He gets in a single.
But he never gets the other hook in.
Well, that's what I mean. So he gets a cross body ride. So what? A single hook in and you're locked to the ankle.
This is how you love to play, Rob.
This is how I love to play. This is also like Danaher is one of the few guys who says cross body ride when it's like that's what it is in wrestling. Yeah, but that's what it is. So it's single hook and you lock right above the butt cheek and you hang. So the one thing I love that has become, and I guess people can blame Danaher for this one, is the power half position. Your
from the crossbody,
three-quarter Nelson, just cranking the hell on
because
the neck.
you have the leverage on both sides of the body, on the hip line and on the shoulder line.
Because when you're going for a seatbelt, you're chilling. You're almost like.
Well, you can't put a ton of pressure unless you start going for like.
And they can shake you way easier. Yeah, they can fight your grip better, and there's not a lot of strain. So it's almost a better position when you hop up there, especially standing, to crank the shit out of them in that power half position.
This is something that I watched.
This is something I do to control people.
One moment that keyed this off to me is like a super important thing. I knew it. I've been training it. I've been doing it for a little bit now. I watched Bodoni at East Coast Trials have the seatbelt for a second, and Gordon goes power half.
Yeah,
and then Bodoni immediately let's go power half.
I remember this. We both were sitting there.
And we were Matt's side, and it was like, a robot. Like Gordon just said it, and Bodoni completely stopped whatever he was doing, and just immediately did what Gordon told him to do. And it was like, oh yeah, that is. And then immediately pulled the guy down.
It's something that I think, I'm sure, like everything in grappling, goes through waves, and it was popular and not popular or whatever. Mm-hmm. So maybe it was popular at one point.
It was popular like in the 90s.
But you didn't see it. And I'll tell you why.
Not much.
You didn't see it because probably catch wrestlers were doing it, and people were like, "Oh, I don't like doing that. Those guys do it." Just like most things.
Yeah.
And now that the right guy with the right accent, even though it's like a Kiwi accent or whatever, he's saying it. People are like, "Oh man, I can use that power half." But the power half is a super dominant position. You will not get someone to tap from it unless they are just I don't know. Their neck is a stack of dimes. But for the most part, you will control that person better-ish than your classic seatbelt. When
you just have more control because you can dip their head down.
Yeah, but the thing is, you then have to when you want to submit them, you have more work to do to get back. So it's a very good point to be in if you're trying to just twist the body up, weigh real heavy on that guy. And what is he going to do? He's going to start fighting your grip. He's going to try to free his neck, and most likely his chin's going to shoot way up. You get the timing on it right, you punch it across.
Yeah.
So it's a very smart position to use.
So DeAndre,
it's a smarter position to use standing.
Yeah, DeAndre does it when Gabriel Souza is standing on him and starts to push him down. And Gabriel Souza, to his credit, man, 2 minutes or something of fighting it and like just keeping the outside hook from Corbre from coming in, from getting the points. Because if there's points, that's it. Match is over. Yeah. And just like waits. Eventually shucks him off, gets him out. They're back standing. And they're back in the hand fight. And we see essentially a mirror of what we just saw. The same hand position, the same grip fight is taking place.
He gets more of a classic single off of this. There's like a little bit of a drag, but not as blatant. But he does hit that like baseball slide arm drag. Gets him to the
Gabriel Souza comes out super hard to the outside. And I thought it was a switch initially. And it's not. It's really just sort of like a really like low wrist forearm arm drag down. DeAndre comes a little forward. Souza comes in.
I gotta explain to you what the switch is because
I know what a switch is, Rob. I just can't like.
It's not a switch.
I want everything to be a switch, and it's not.
It's not. It's not.
Lifting a switch, Rob. I still believe it was a switch, Rob.
It's not a switch.
It wasn't a switch. It was an arm drag.
But yeah, he hits an arm drag to like the baseball slide style where he pulls himself underneath. And then gets to that single, then gets the back, and actually pulls off what was happening to him not long before.
He gets the hooks in, he gets them out, he fights the choke in, he gets his points. But, dude, the sequence that he hit, the whole thing was like 10 seconds of just fight, hands, arm drag, out, single, jump the hook over from the single leg to the back, power half him down, get him. And then as soon as they hit the mat, Gabriel Souza ends up where he's like starting to trap the arm of DeAndre with his own leg to start to go for the choke. He fights it back down. He fights over to belly down him. So now he's like essentially mounted.
When he's got the hook, the leg over catching the arm, I'm pretty sure, unless I saw it wrong, and maybe I did see it wrong, it looks like he was pointing out that he has his hooks in. Like it looked like he's like trying to say like
he just looked. He was excited to be there.
Isn't this over? Like type look. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's definitely what it looked like.
It was a great match. It was, again, I'm very happy we got a chance to preview it and watch it because overall it was just a fantastic.
Where was this?
North Carolina. Oh. Toro's always in usually in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
It's been a while since been.
I'm a big fan of Souza. I like watching him.
Yeah.
I go like that. That's my way. I have a similar style, so I enjoy watching those guys, the short, stocky dudes that seem like they're pretty damn strong but quick. I enjoy watching that. Who do you have? I watched. What was it? He had a pretty ballsy match against Cade. Yeah,
who's number one? Because he subbed Mikey in the first round.
Right.
And I thought it was Pato for like a month, and someone in my DM'd us and went, wrong guy, and I went, I know. Listen to the later show, I'd correct it.
Yeah. No, his match against Cade, he kind of took it to Cade at first.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, man, that height is beating your ass right now.
He's very good. Again, awesome match.
Yeah.
Other match we're talking about this card really briefly is Alex Wynn taking on Jessica Crane. Alex Wynn wins this via a really not drawn out rear naked choke, but just great control from the back for a good, towards the middle end of the match of the regulation, and eventually is able to just sort of put the pressure on, get the choke across, finish it. And that was a great win. That was for the women's Nogi light featherweight title. And then the DeAndre Corbre and Gabriel Souza match was for the Nogi lightweight title. So, again, love what Toro Cup's doing. They are a great organization that supports a great cause.
A lot of matches.
Yeah, big card, and they have the title fights in the center of it. They run it in an interesting way. But overall, again, we have not covered Toro in a while, and I really do enjoy covering Toro Cup because they put on like really cool matches like this in a cool format. I just love that Bagos is on the mat, like reffing, having a good time. He's into it. And overall, it was just it was a fun card. I have not got a chance to look through the rest of the card for some other matches, but I know there's a couple other guys that I know that we cover kind of in the local scene that I want to go through and watch. But that does it for this week. Rob, do you have anything else going on this week on a personal note? We have Boa Super 8 next week, but again, we're not going to preview anything this week because there's not a whole lot of information we have to preview. So you got anything going on fun jiu-jitsu-wise this week other than just coaching and training and wrestling?
Training and wrestling. My wrestling season is entered in the postseason for both teams. So I have that. I have the club team and all that, and then my own training for getting ready for this fight. So
Fun. Yeah, what do you got? A month left? Month and a half?
Nah, I got 6 weeks this week. February being a short month. So,
oh, yeah. February screws us up.
Fucking February. But yeah, and then right after that, 1 week later is West Coast Trials. So
hey, West Coast Trials.
On how banged up I am.
Yeah, you got 3 weeks in a row that are big weekends.
Yeah.
So, I got nothing going on this week. I just had spine surgery stuff today.
You had spinal injections.
I had spinal injections. It was
spinal.
Wasn't super great. I was honestly of the 4.
What was this for?
My back, just the broken back.
Duh.
Okay.
What were the injections? Cortisone? Or?
It wasn't cortisone, but they were like, yeah, it's like that. And then
like cortisone.
They didn't really press them further because it is not assistive information for me to know.
Filler?
No.
Some sort of.
It's not like Botox or college. It's not collagen.
Well, cortisone expands and helps fill in gaps.
Yeah. Not really a medical guy, Rob. You want to know about municipal infrastructure? Definitely your guy. But
just curious.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It was some sort of very, very similar to cortisone, but not quite. Something a little different.
Yeah.
I have the paperwork upstairs, but my surgeon said you should do this, and I went, okay, medical doctor, I will follow your advice.
Stem cells?
No, I wish.
That'd be awesome.
My insurance doesn't cover it.
Steroids.
I think it might be. It I think actually is a steroid.
Probably was steroid.
Because they asked.
To be honest,
because
it probably was.
I waited 2 hours to get it done because there's paperwork and then they booked me wrong behind 2 other people. So I chatted with the staff there for a while, and they were like, "What do you do?" And I'm wearing a Baltimore Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu shirt, a hoodie with
I break myself.
Baltimore Jiu-Jitsu, and basically it came up.
Yeah.
And the doctor.
I do really smart things to my body,
and that's what I said. I was like, "Yeah, this kind of happens if you do what I do for long enough, you're here." Because basically, because people screaming in the pain management room while they were having the procedure done before me.
Right, yeah.
Both people screamed, and I'm sitting there going, "You have been to pain management clinics before. That's not common. That's not a thing." And both of them. And I looked at the staff and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And they went, "No, that doesn't happen." I was like, "You tell it to everyone." But they got into what I do, and then they were like, "Oh, you'll be fine. You're used to you're used." And I was
so they always
fine.
think there was getting an injection or having blood drawn or anything, and they see tattoos on me, and they're like, "Oh, what?" And I look away when they inject a needle into me, and they're like, "Oh, what? You're scared of them? You get all that?" I'm like, "It's not the same at all.
Yeah.
What I get is a burning scratch for the most part. That is a piece of metal injecting into my fucking body.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it. I'm not scared of it. I just don't want to look.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like,
I don't look down, and people think, do you think I stare at my tattoos when they're getting done? Not really. I kind of don't. I stare off, and then I'll check in occasionally and go, "Oh, look at that. All right."
Yeah.
Back into the ceiling I go.
Yeah, but it was very funny, and of the 4 times I've had it done, basically that came up, and they were like, "Do they drug test?" And I went, "Not for what I do," and they went, "Good, because this will make you." And I was like, "Oh, this is the good stuff." If they asked that question and they told me that
I was my butt too.
They told me I would fail a drug test. I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's a first. That's awesome. I'm happy about that."
Yeah,
I was like, as soon as we have kids,
even oral fucking steroids you take for being sick or anything, you'll fail a drug test.
Yeah,
so.
But it was just funny that a medical doctor told me that directly after learning what I did in my recreational free time, and I just thought it was very humorous. I was like, he's like, "Oh, you just FYI, you will not pass a drug test," and I went, "Yeah, they don't drug test, man. I'm at the level I'm at, not worried about it." So that was my day. Of the 4 times I've had it done, it was the least painful of the times, but it's also the only one I've had done post surgery. So.
Okay.
Generally, I mean, way less pain anyway, and my life's pretty great now. So this will hopefully take out that kind of the last residual pain that I do have still with standing and prolonged walking and stuff. and then hopefully we're good to go, and I get to just train for no reason forever.
Click on the watch, see if it says, or maybe it's in front of you somewhere.
Click on the what?
And next fight to win. I was just curious where it is.
Yeah, it doesn't tell us.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not gonna tell you, Rob.
That's weird.
So Flow's been kind of delayed in updating a lot of the fight to win information. I'm not sure if they're getting it late or what's exactly is going on, but usually we're not getting it until like Wednesday or the next week or Thursday or something like that.
Back here.
Yeah, I would love that to come back here. Now that I'm post-surgery, Rob, and competing again, I'll be ready. So
Nice.
That does it. Rob, anything else you got?
Nope.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, with the co-host,
Rob Sullivan.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. To see on the mat, whatever it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.